Yeah, and I tell you what annoys me most of all, and I got some great charts here just to illustrate the point. I mentioned that we sell about 7 or 8 times more coal to the rest of the world than we use ourselves. We sell 4 times more gas. Most of the gas on the East Coast goes to China. We sell a lot of coal to China. Now, look at these charts about global emissions, right? So, the top left, which is up to 2024, end of 2024, look where China's emissions are. That's shown in the red. Look where what Indians are doing. Rocketing. China's are rocketing, Indians are rocketing. I didn't put the US in here. US has fallen, Europe's fallen. Australia is that little tiny, tiny straight line at the bottom, right? We're hugging the bottom axis. We're 1% of the world's carbon emissions, right? So we're happy to sell all our stuff to China to burn, who's just going hog wild. China has literally accounted for nearly 2/3 of the rise in the world's carbon emissions since 2000, right? So anybody who talks about global warming, blah, 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 climate change, don't look at us, look at China. The data's there, clear as day. Now, look at the chart below that. It shows coal, final energy consumption by country, coal. You can see China there uses by far the world's most coal. It uses like 50% more coal than the rest of the world combined. That's shown in red. The top right there also shows China's energy use by type. And you see coal blue. China just uses tons of coal. Under that, it's got the percentage share of its energy consumption. Red is coal. So China uses heaps of coal. And the bottom chart, the bottom right there, which is from Tarek Brooker, shows that China, despite the fact that we sell coal to China and we sell 7 or 8 times more coal than we use, China actually produces 10 times the coal that we produce itself, which it burns itself. So you can see there, despite the fact we're the world's biggest coal exporter, we actually produce less than half the coal that India produces domestically, and we produce 1/10 the coal that China produces domestically. And China's actually building out more coal mines. It's also building out more coal generators. It's adding to this stuff every year. And you can see the coal capacity in the top middle chart there, China's additions in red versus the rest of the world's, and the other is basically India, but mostly India. You can see that the world's been adding more coal-fired generators than the West has been retiring. So what are we doing here? We're sitting here going, we've got to shut down our coal for net zero. We've got to go net zero. We've got to go all renewables. At the same time as we're selling the stuff that we could be using at home to China to burn instead. And the last time I checked, we're one world, right? So surely if we burnt a little bit more ourselves, exported a little bit less, gave ourselves stable, reliable power that was also relatively cheap, it wouldn't make any difference to the world in the global emissions, would it? Because we'd just be selling less to China to burn instead. And I'd argue that it's actually better for global emissions if Australia had cheaper power, we manufactured more stuff in Australia rather than driving up our cost of energy, shutting down our manufacturing as a result, offshoring that to China to then buy the stuff back on a ship that travels here on bunker fuel and is produced in China with less emissions controls than is produced in Australia. Like, wouldn't that be better for the world's environment, the global economy, the global emissions, global pollution, if places like Australia and the UK didn't deindustrialise because of high energy through these sorts of policies, actually produce more at home for ourselves instead of outsourcing it all to China and then sending it back to us on a ship burning bunker fuel, which is incredibly dirty and has to travel thousands of kilometres by sea. Like, it's waste. But our policymakers don't see it like that because they look at, somehow they think that Australia being 1% of world's carbon emissions can save the world, when the people we sell those same coal, gas, etc. to are burning anyway. Like, I just don't understand the thinking here. Like, China, as I said, as that chart bottom right shows, China mines 10 times the amount of coal that we mine. They use all their own coal and then they buy our coal to top it off. It's like, explain this to me. It makes no sense. I just don't get it. How Australia, the UK, and all these other places can basically shoot themselves in the foot. And the bottom middle chart there also shows it beautifully. It shows you the electricity generation by technology. In 2015, you can see the left-hand part of that chart, China. China's coal consumption has gone up massively in the last 10 years, or in the 9 years to 2024. That's the red bar charts there on the left-hand side of the chart. Yes, they've expanded renewables as well, but the coal's gone up heaps. And then US, you see US's coal use has gone down. EU and the UK's coal use has gone down. India's has gone up. So we're all cutting back on our coal use. The West is cutting back or has cut back, but China and India are adding to it. So how does us getting off coal but selling that same coal to India and China and other places improve the world's climate? It doesn't. But all we're doing is we're just shooting ourselves in the foot because we're giving ourselves expensive energy. For what?
Well, it's the sheer irony, because the problem that we've got is that we can sit here talking about this all day, and because we don't have access to the politicians to talk about it, but you do have access to the general public to talk about it. If this was better understood and there was a better education on what exactly policy is doing, then we could see more of a movement that would flag to the politicians that we don't actually want this.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean that's part of the reasons why we do these things, right? To try and get the word out to as many people as possible. But unfortunately, there aren't many politicians asking the question. Like, there's a couple, like Matt Canavan from the Nationals has been pretty good on this. Andrew Hasey's been pretty good on this sort of stuff. But every time they bring the same points up that I make, they just get laughed at. Oh, you're a climate denier and all this sort of stuff. Look, I don't deny that humans are having an impact on the environment. I don't believe that it's as devastating as they make out, like, oh, the world's going to melt and end and all this sort of stuff if we have a little bit of higher CO2 and stuff. I don't subscribe to the doomsday scenarios. But yeah, I think we definitely have an impact. But at the same time, you go, let's be pragmatic here. We are 1% of the world's carbon emissions. China is nearly a third. China has driven nearly 2/3 of the increase in the world's carbon emissions. India is also ramping it up as well. Those guys aren't playing by the same rules as us. Yet we're happy to sell our hydrocarbons to those places, burn, and to add to carbon emissions, but we're not happy to use that ourselves. Like, it just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's a zero. Like, the world's carbon emissions would be no worse off if we, instead of exporting 7 times more coal than we use, we export 6 times more coal than we use, and we use a bit more of it ourselves. Right? But we could give ourselves stable, reliable power, because here's the thing. Yes, our coal generators are very old. Like, a lot of them, except for the ones in Queensland, they got still got a fair bit of life in them. Some of them were only built in the 2000s. But, generally speaking, they're very old, and they probably do need to be replaced at some point. But we could build new coal generators fairly cheaply, and they'd be a lot cleaner than the ones we've got now. Because, yes, they do belch carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide itself is not a pollution. You and I are breathing it out right now. Trees use it for their oxygen equivalent, right? Pollution is pollution. And the new coal-fired generators that are being built are a lot cleaner in a pollution sense. So we're talking about sulfur and nitrogen oxide and things like that. They've managed to cut that stuff down by about 95%. It's like a modern petrol engine is actually very clean. They don't release much petrol compared to the ones that were in the 1980s because of catalytic converters and all the other pollution control stuff. Yes, they do belch carbon dioxide because that's part of the splitting the hydrocarbons, but it's not pollution. And we could replace our coal-fired generators fairly cheaply. It still costs billions, obviously, tens of billions to replace all of them. But we could use the existing transmission infrastructure that's already there and build new ones that are a lot cleaner in a pollution sense, not necessarily carbon dioxide sense. They'd produce less carbon dioxide because they'd be more efficient, but they'd still release carbon dioxide because that's just part of the combustion process. You can't get around that. But they'd be a lot cleaner in a pollution sense. But the thing is, we could have more stable power that can run 24/7 independent of the weather. We would need to build out all this pumped hydro, batteries, and all the other stuff, the massive transmission lines all over, like spider webs all over the country to get to far-flung places where there's wind turbines over here and here and here and salt, whatever. All that stuff's already built. We could use the existing transmission lines and just replace the coal generators gradually. And I think we'd be better off. And we could, China is doing the right thing for them because China is building more of everything. And that's shown pretty clearly in the chart on the top right there. They're doing more coal. They're doing more wind, solar, hydro, nuclear. China's doing everything. China just says we need more energy to grow. Australia should be saying we need more energy to grow and getting it from all areas. Right? So build out more coal, or at least keep the coal, like the capacity we've got, and replace it with new, more efficient turbines. Australia should just be following what China's doing. Just, we need more energy. The population is going to grow by 50%, according to the government projections, which I think is nuts, but that's what they're projected. And we're going to have data centers, and we need desalination plants. All this stuff's got to be powered. So we need more energy. So let's get it. And we should do it from coal, nuclear, some more renewables. We've already got loads of solar and everything already, rooftop solar. And we really just need probably more batteries to go with that, so we can store more of it, so it's not as much as lost. We should just be copying China, like just more of everything. Because at the moment, the policy is basically shut down our 24/7 base load power and on a wing and a prayer, hoping that this intermittent stuff can cut the mustard and see us through extended wind droughts in winter and extreme weather events, which is just can't. At the same time as they're going to grow demand massively through population growth data centers and desalination plants. Like, it just doesn't work. You can't massively increase demand and then hamstring yourself with supply, which is basically what the governments want to do. It's crazy. China's not doing that. China's not shutting down its coal plants. It's adding more of them, right? Yes, it's adding a lot of renewables as well, but it's also adding more coal. And India's doing the same. And, other countries in Asia are doing the same. Like they have all prioritized energy security over emissions and whatever. We have prioritized emissions over energy security and cost. And UK's done it, and as a result, and Germany's done it. And as a result, we've all shot ourselves in the foot. And we're just sending our industry over to China, other places in Asia, etc., to then buy it back off them, where it's probably being produced with less controls, more pollution, and then we've got to send it on ships with bunker fuel back to us. It's less efficient from a resource perspective.